during this during this time in our lives. It's like it's Blur's Day,
That's
right?
right. And the kids aren't in school either to kind of keep you, honest. So it's like, yeah, I
Oh
get
my
it.
gosh! And I live with a fifth grade teacher, and they were talking
Mhm.
about what's, when they were giving the teachers like how they wanted to alternate, like if they wanted to, what if they preferred having students come in like every other day, or if they wanted them to do like Monday, Tuesday one week, and then Wednesday, Thursday, Friday the following week. I'm like, y'all aren't gonna know what day it is. Nobody's gonna
Uh-huh.
know what day to show up. So yeah, it's just all right. So we left off on Monday night. And we were talking in chapter 4, which we're going to finish up tonight. And the only thing we have left in chapter 4 is the math, which we have not yet done, and is way simplified from what it has been in the past. There used to be quite a bit of math in chapter 4 about lot development and land development costs. And, if we gave you $2.75 million and land cost, $3.58 a square foot, how many quarter acre lots could you develop if 10% of the land had to be used for streets and another 15% was wooded? And people literally committed suicide halfway through the question. I mean, so it was a national emergency. They had to get rid of some of that math. It really, it was, they were tedious. And so most of that is gone. Most of the, the math as far as acreage conversions and lot development and those kinds of things is gone. But there is some of it still there. And what's there, we want to make sure to talk about. This is the T-bar formula, and I know some of you are still having growing pains with the T-bar. I know some of you love it, and even that there's expected to be some transitional time there. But I'm going to always present it as a T-bar. If you're not comfortable with that, then you can ask me separately. If I can give you the algebraic formula. Um, and you can go from there. And I'm happy to teach it to you algebraically too. But my sense is once you get over the hump of this is just a visual representation of a formula, you'll be much better off. This is the formula for converting square footage into acreage. Square footage is a measure of area, how much area is in. So, for example, a room that's 10 by 10, 10 feet wide and 10 feet deep. How do we calculate the area of something anyway? Don't we just do length times width? Isn't that how we calculate the area of something? So a
Mm-hmm.
room that's 10 feet by 10 feet is 100 square feet. Does that make sense for everybody? It's just, 100 square feet. Well,
Yes.
the problem with square footage, technically, we could always do land as square footage. There's a problem with square footage, though. The numbers get to be really, really big, really quickly. Like for example, if you were doing a land sale, um, and let's just, I mean, I'm just going to make up a number here. Let's say you were doing a land sale for 8.5 acres of land. Well, you could easily just say, actually, what we're selling is 370,260 square feet, which is easier to say, though. We're selling 370,260 square feet, or we're selling 8.5 acres. Which one is going to be easier to
Acres.
market and convey to people?
8.5.
8.5 acres. And that's why we need to be able to do this conversion, because square footage numbers get to be just way too big to deal with. It's not that they're wrong. It's just too big. The numbers are big, and the reason the numbers are so big is because this number is a magic number right here, and this number you must memorize. There is no help for you on the test with this number. It is a memorization thing, and you've got to know that there are 43,560 square feet in 1 acre of land. 43,560 acres or square feet in 1 acre of land. All right. So you've got a way with that number to convert, to change acreage into square footage. But in addition to changing acreage into square footage, what can you also use this formula for? If they give you square footage, you can change it into what?
Acres.
Into acreage. So you can go back and forth between. Now, one way people have used to help memorize this number over the years, and I'll give it to you, and you can see if it helps you. It helps some people. To memorize that there are 43,560 acres or square feet in an acre. I can't talk tonight. A lot of people remember this. Four little old ladies driving 35 in a 60 zone. I don't know if that helps you or not, but a lot of people say it does help them. 4 little old ladies driving 35 in a 60. 43,560 square feet in an acre. Okay.
That helped me so much.
And no, Anthony, hair color is not irrelevant. They're blue hair. It's very important data. No. But whatever you use to help you memorize this is fine. As long as you, Anson's got to change his debit card. He's on a roll tonight. But yes, this is, whatever tool helps you, you've got to know that number. The good news is once you know that number, and you know that in the T-bar, square footage goes on top and acreage goes on the bottom, you can always do this conversion, no matter whether they give you square footage and ask for acreage, or they give you acreage and ask for square footage. I mean, let's just read the T-bar, out loud here. They give me square footage and they ask for acres. So they want to know how many acres is in a piece of property. Well, can we look at this thing and go acres equals square footage, and what's the math going to be?
Divided.
You multiply.
Divided by 43,560.
Divided by 43,560. Read it just like it's in the T-bar. Acres, so start right here, equals this, and it's over that, so square feet divided by 43,560. If the numbers were side by side, you would multiply them. But because it's square feet over 43,560, it's square feet divided by 43,560. Well, let's say I want to know square footage. So they're asking me for this. This is what my final answer is. What does the T-bar say my math is going to look like?
Acres times
Square footage.
43,560.
The number of acres times 43,560. Does everybody see that?
Travis, do you think it might help if I just suggest like what you're starting with? Like if you're starting with total square feet, that's going to be what you're trying to have your to the left of your equal sign. So you could put equals up there and then your equation.
Right. The thing you want to find is going to be on the left side of the equals, and then the other two, stick them on the right. And if they're top, bottom, it's division. If they're side by side in the formula, it's multiplication.
And if you put like an equal sign in the T-bar, then that would show you where you need to get your equation from.
Right. So circle the one you want and then put your equal sign in there. Square footage equals acres times 43,560. Whereas if I want to know acres, well, acres equals square footage divided by 43,560. Does that help? That make sense for everybody?
I think it cleared up for me, at least.
Okay.
All right.
So Here's what I want you to do. Take out a calculator or use one on your phone if you don't already have a calculator. And I want you to take about, I don't know, 2 minutes. And I want you to work these conversions. I want you to work these conversions, you know, and I'm just going to go ahead and set them up like a T-bar here. And I want you to convert all of these.
So all we have to do is just calculate what you're giving us, right? I mean,
That's right. That's exactly right. Just get in the habit of how to do the calculation. Do those numbers look familiar? Is that about what everybody's coming up with when you make those conversions? Okay. That's all it takes to convert acreage to square footage and square footage to acreage. So you have to memorize 43,560. And then you have to know that in the T-bar, square footage goes on the top and acreage goes on the bottom. And then you can always make those conversions. Okay, we good? Super simple, right? Can handle that. Good.
Hey, Travis. Now, I imagine this would be a national question kind of thing.
It will be. As a matter of fact, TJ, since you bring it up, all of the calculations are in the national section of the exam. There is no math in the state-specific section. So all of the calculations are in the national section. All right, now this is an example of a question that people have struggled with on the test, and it's really not as difficult, I think, as sometimes people make it out to be in their mind. When you see a land question, draw a picture. Picture will help you a lot. It says here a property measures 400 feet wide by 800 feet deep. So 400 feet wide by 800 feet deep, something like that. Okay.
Hey, Travis.
Yes.
Speaking of it, just thought I'd go and bring it up now. Are we allowed to take like a loose notebook pad to do our T-bars and draw our maps and everything?
Yes.
Or will
As long as it's blank, you can have they will provide you with blank paper.
Oh, okay.
Yep. Absolutely. So we've got a property that measures 400 feet wide by 800 feet deep and is surrounded by a 5-foot wide natural hedge that cannot be removed and is not useful for development. Now, I will tell you when they give you this question, and I'm just going to tell you what they mean, because people have thought their way in circles around this thing before. We would not care about the hedge if it was outside the property line. This hedge is on the property. Okay, is everybody with me on that? This hedge is part of the property. It says it is surrounded by this natural hedge that is 5 feet wide. So we've got something that looks like this. All the way around. And it says this natural hedge is not useful for development. This would also be the same if they said there was a 5-foot setback on the property. In other words, there's 5 feet of the property on all 4 sides that can't be what?
Can't be used.
Can't be
Can't be
used.
Built
used.
upon.
Can't be built upon, can't be developed.
So it's 390 by 790.
So Rodney, you're exactly right. What we need to figure out a way to do. So let me just ask y'all a theoretical question. You got 2 boxes that are drawn on the screen. Is the question asking you the size of the black box, or is the question actually asking you the size of the green box? Which one?
Green box.
Green.
The green box, because it wants to know how much usable space you actually have. And the usable space actually starts right there. Is everybody with me on that?
Yes.
And here's what we know about this usable box. It's not 400 feet wide. Is it wider than 400 or is it less than 400?
It's less than.
It's less than. Here's the real question. How much less than 400? Is it 5 feet less than 400 or is it 10 feet less than 400?
It's 10 feet.
It's 10 feet less than 400 because it's 5 feet less on the left,
Right.
and 5 feet less on the right. Does that make sense for everybody?
Yes.
So when I lose 5 feet over here and 5 feet over here, this thing actually becomes 390 feet wide. How about the depth? Isn't the same thing happening on the depth?
Yep.
When I look at
Yes.
the depth, this thing is not 800 feet deep. I'm losing 5 feet of the depth on the front and 5 feet of the depth on the back. So how deep is this usable property?
790.
790.
90. So when you see this question, the key to it is knowing how to get rid of that space that's actually not useful. That's the big key here to being able to answer this question is how do we take that space that's in there but not useful and get rid of it? And so what I'm going to do here, what my math is actually going to look like is this. We're going to say that property useful space is 790 feet by 390 feet, which is 308,100 square feet. Kelly, you have it in your slide pack. You should.
Oh, it is? Okay. Okay, cool.
Should be. Yeah. Okay. So you got 308,100 square feet, but they don't ask us for square feet. What are they asking us for?
Acreage.
Acreage. Don't we have a formula if we go back over here that we can use to
The
convert
4 old ladies.
4 little old ladies driving 35 in a
Right.
60, right? We know that we can take and we can put square footage up here on the top and down here on the bottom have acres and 43,560. And we also know the square footage from right there is 308,100. 308,100 divided by 43,560 because it's top and bottom.
1.1.
I come up with a little over 7 acres, 7.0730.
Hey Travis,
Yes,
on the math part, on the national, they're not gonna have like rounding stuff. Like they're not gonna have
rounding.
answers that are super close if you round differently.
Correct. Rounding's not going to make a difference as far as your answer choices. They won't give you 2 answers that are that close to each other. It's a
Okay,
good question.
just wanted, I didn't think so. Just want to make sure. Thanks.
Yeah, what I usually do is just go at least 4 decimal places past the decimal, and then I don't have to worry about rounding at all. But does
So-
everybody see where 7.073-ish acres comes from?
If not, speak now and forever hold your peace.
How many places past the decimal did you say? You kind of broke up there.
I usually go 4. I usually just write down 4 past the decimal because that pretty much takes any rounding out of the picture.
Travis, did you say the key word was to look for 5-foot hedge, or not necessarily 5 foot, but
The key here is how many usable acres, right? They're not asking just how many acres of land, but how many of them are useful. Whenever they ask that question, there's always going to be something they want you to take away. So you're just trying to figure out what you take away.
When I first read this before you like started going over that, I thought they threw that in to like just like mess with us and throw us off and add in an extra number. I obviously wasn't paying attention.
Yeah, this is one of the times they're not messing with you. The way I've seen this presented or heard this is presented is always, you know, like with setbacks or something like this, that they would want you to take it away from the useful space.
Travis, could you explain again? So when you have the 800 feet and the 400 feet and you're taking away 5 feet from that, how come it's not coming to the 795 and it's going to 790?
All right, Denisha, the room you're in right now,
Mm-hmm.
I want you to look around. Okay?
Okay.
All right. About how wide is that room? 12 feet, 15 feet?
About 15 feet.
Okay. You can't use 5 feet all the way around it. So look to your left and imagine that wall is, imagine a piece of tape 5 feet from the wall, and you can't use that space. Okay?
Okay.
Now look to your right and do the same thing over there. Imagine there's another piece of tape on the floor 5 feet from that wall. The usable space is between the 2 pieces of the tape. Did you take 5 feet off the room or did you take 10 feet off the room?
Oh, I took 10 because I took 5 from both sides of it.
There you go. And then you're doing the same thing the other way too. So
Okay,
that's why it's 10 instead of 5.
got it.
Travis.
Thank you.
Hey, Travis. It's kind of similar to what she just asked, but well, I guess problems like this, will it be? How will the wording be so we can identify if we need to take 5 from one side instead of both sides?
You
Or
would.
Usable.
There's no way, because it's going to say there's a setback requirement on all sides, or there's a hedge that surrounds the property, or, you know, they're never going to give it what would be, you know, a separate thing on one side or the other.
All right, cool.
I think this is what they intentionally try to trick you on.
Well, they're just, what they want to see is, do you understand the idea of, you know, usable space on a property is different than actual space. You know, every piece of land, especially in a city, yeah, it has acreage, but you can't use all of that acreage. Like, for example, my property in Cary, I have setback requirements of 10 feet all the way around, which means I can't construct anything within the 10 feet closest to the property line. So if you look at usable space, it's actually significantly smaller than the actual acreage is.
Right. And the same kind of applies to like a house, you know, livable square footage plus actual square footage, you know.
It's different. Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right. Last thing in the math in this, and then we're done with chapter 4, completely done with it, is that commercial real estate is very often sold as something called front footage, or just frontage, road frontage. And frontage is priced by the front foot, not by the square foot. This is one of those things where the conceptual, very rarely will you hear me say, you don't need to understand the concept here. This is one of those, you'll either get the concept or you won't, but it's not necessary for you to get the concept to be able to answer the math question. When they give you a property and they say it's being sold by the front foot, here's all you need to know. Every piece of property has 2 dimensions, correct? Guess which one of them is the front footage? The one in front. And that's all you need to know to be able to do this math. Because any property, if they say it's priced by the front foot, they want you to use that first dimension. And that's the only one that matters. You're not dealing with square footage, you're dealing with front footage. So this, it says here, a property measuring 300 feet by 500 feet along Creedmoor Road actually has 300 feet of road frontage because it's just the first number. So look at this math question. I want you to take a second, and I'm actually not even going to walk you through how to do this one right away. I'm going to let you do this on your own because it really is just that straightforward. If you're thinking you're too deep on this, it says a property measures 200 feet by 450 feet on Wake Forest Road. Land is priced at $3,980 per front foot. What's the cost of the property in question? Okay. So 30 seconds, you should be able to answer that question. And that's not, and I'm not even being like vicious with that. That is really that straightforward. I want you to see how simple it is, because if you're thinking, you're too deep.
Is it 796,000?
I haven't done it yet, but I can tell you what number I care about.
It's probably wrong.
That front number.
Which number do I care about here?
The front number.
Front, 200.
And here's what I know. I have 200 front feet, and each one costs what?
$3,980.
$3,980, 796 grand for that piece of property. Now, how many of you wish you see about 12 of those on the test right there?
Yeah, right. All of them.
I mean, really, this is the one that you hope you get. You know, this is it right here. But don't overthink a front footage question. It's just the first dimension. I'll tell you 2 pieces of property that are priced by front footage. Commercial real estate, because when you're dealing with commercial real estate, the space along the road is what matters. The more exposure you have to the road, the more valuable the property is. Mm-hmm. And there's one type of residential real estate that we use front footage on, and it has nothing to do with roads. What kind of property in the residential world is much more valuable the more of something it has exposure to on one side?
Water.
Waterfront property is very often priced by the front foot, except it's not street frontage we're looking at, it's water frontage we're looking at. Very often, if you'll see land that's being sold along a lake or something like that, it'll say, you know, it's being, the property has 385 feet of water frontage, and then it'll price it per waterfront foot. That's the only time this shit's used.
At the coast.
Well, lakes, sometimes.
And lakes.
Coast for sure. Yeah. And then in all, you know, commercial undeveloped land gets priced this way. All right. That's it for the math in chapter. That's all.
Woo!
That's it. They really have simplified that a lot, at least in my opinion, I think.
I think so. How does everybody else feel about it?
Yeah.
Oh, pretty good? Good. So why don't we do this?